Hi, jewells68 here for Talk to Me Tuesday on Tuesday, June 3rd. Most of what I've been doing is working on rearranging furniture and organizing and sorting and getting rid of some stuff here in the project room. So that's why you haven't seen me in a while. I did just recently, though, over the past week, start crafting again. So I'll show you what I've been working on. First thing I did was, after I made space for it, I dug out my Singer 301A, which my mother gave me. It was actually not her machine. She got it from a friend whose aunt had passed away, and her friend asked her if she wanted it for any of her grandkids or kids, and knowing that I sewed. And so my mom said yes, but then it just sat out in her garage. So eventually, the same time that I dragged over my Kenmore, which was my mom's sister's, I also dragged the Singer home with me and tested it out, found out it worked, and it ended up back in my closet because I didn't have space for it at the time. Now I've got it out on a table. I've been piecing some patchwork with it, and it's working beautifully. It's got really nice markings on the throat plate, marking the 1/4 inch in particular, which has been a struggle for me on the Kenmore, and I don't have a patchwork foot for either of them, but the marking is so clear on the Singer that everything's coming out the right size, so that's nice. Especially since I do the birthday block swap, and usually there's always traditional piecing involved with that, and this will help me with that. So I'll show you a picture of that right here. So, what have I been working on that? Well, one of the things I did over the past couple of weeks, after I finished getting the room about as organized as it was going to get for a while, because I just was sick of not making anything, so I got it kind of back to usable functioning status again, and I started cutting out 8 million squares of these. This fabric and this fabric right here, you might remember from my mom's fabric stash that I brought home when we were going through her stuff there at the house, and I decided that I was going to use some of her fabric in a quilt for my impending great niece who is due in August. And that way it could be kind of a gift from Mom, since she won't be here, and me. So I decided to use something called the granny square block, which is basically inspired by a crocheted granny square, but it's a patchwork square made with fabric. And these two fabrics are going to be, there's going to be one each of these two fabrics in each of the blocks. And then I just tore through all my scraps to find enough fun, bright, whatever fabrics to use for the rest of the squares. And then the background is white Kona cotton, and that will also be the sashing. And I have 2 blocks finished that I pieced. I pieced those 2 blocks on, I pieced these 2 blocks that I have done so far for the quilt on that Singer 301A. So here is block number 1. Oops. And here is block number 2. Aren't those fun? And they're so easy to make. So I will insert a link to the tutorial for that block. It's traditionally pieced, and I'm using the original tutorial, which was for squares, so that you could use your scraps up. She also has a tutorial for strip piecing, using pre-cuts if you want, like a jelly roll. And it's on the Moda Bake Shop website, and I'll insert a link for that as well down below the video. But that way, I thought that's appropriate, the granny square block, because there's blocks from Grandma in there, from her great-grandmother. And anyway, I think that's coming together really nicely. And the nice thing is, that's the block I also chose for my birthday block swap block this year. And so now I have a couple of samples that I can show. You know, I this way I tested the tutorial and I know it works, so that's always comforting to know, even though technically I don't think anybody's, you know, working on my block yet, since my birthday is not until October. The one change I made, actually, I should state, is these blocks are really big. You probably noticed. These are about 13 1/4 inches square, and the tutorial ends up with, I think, about 9 1/2 inches or so, maybe 9 1/4, 9 1/2. I can't remember off the top of my head. The tutorial is for 2 1/2 inch squares and 2 1/2 inch strips for the strip piecing version. The strip piecing version makes 2 squares, so that'll be fun to try out. I'll try that out when I start working on my own squares for the Birthday Blocks quilt. But for these that I just showed you, I actually used 3 1/2 inch squares, and that's why it made so much bigger, because the squares of Mom's that I'm using were approximately 4 inches square, but they weren't very consistently cut. So 3 1/2 inches was a nice size that I could, you know, keep them as big as possible, and that way not have to make 8 million blocks. The only other thing I've been working on lately is the Autumn Glory that I started, and I showed you the beginnings of that in my last video. For my next Project Linus quilt, or blanket, I mean. Whoops. And this was the beginnings of it. I'll try to step back so you can see more of the colors, but so that was the beginnings of it, and now I'm gone all the way down to there. So, oh, one more thing. You guys might remember this guy here. The beginning of this was a charm pack that I purchased at Big Lots for $3. All of the charms are present right here. So that was all of them. There was only 24 that came with it. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, but yeah, 24. So this is all the charms that came in the pack. The yellow sashing I had in my stash, but I didn't have enough to put a wider border on either side. So that is fabric that I had in my stash that a friend had given me to use for Project Linus that they happened to have, but I just barely had enough to do this border on the sides here. That helped me make it wider. And then this fabric here that's in the border, one of the ladies at Project Linus helped me find in the bins. So that actually came from Project Linus. So now this has to be a Project Linus quilt. So I think it's big enough right now, but I'm thinking that just so that I can use whatever I want for the border, I'm thinking I might put a stop border, not for the border, so I can use whatever I want for the binding. I'm thinking I might put a stop border all the way around that's really narrow, just like 1 inch maybe. And the only thing that's in this quilt that I have enough of to do that with is white. So I'll probably just use white Kona cotton because I have some left. I have plenty of that in my stash because I bought a bunch before I started working on these quilt blocks for my great niece. Anyway, that's it. I will, oh no, I didn't show you. So yeah, I don't know what binding I'm going to use yet, but I'm going to put a narrow stop border there just because that top is so busy. And then this is my backing right here. Also picked out of the fabrics that had been donated to Project Linus. There should be plenty there for the backing, so I'm excited about that. So all I need is to sash it, and then hopefully I can get, I should be able to get the batting I need from Project Linus when I go to the next meeting, and then I will quilt it with my new walking foot on my Singer 301A, so I'm very excited about that. That's all I have to show you. I'm looking forward to watching all your videos, and I will see you next week. Bye! Oh, God! Damn it! When did it cut off? I hate when it does that.